She was ready for her vacation when the man next to her suddenly demanded her removal from the plane, claiming he didn't feel safe. To her shock, the request was granted without question. But what happened next left everyone stunned. Let's start from the beginning. JFK Airport. The gleaming fuselage of the airplane is ready for takeoff. Passengers settle into their seats, their expressions neutral, despite the hour-long delay. Delays are expected. No one seems particularly upset. Almost no one. Rachel Thomas, a 34-year-old black woman and a highly successful attorney, carefully tucks her coat into the overhead compartment and takes her window seat. This is her first vacation in 3 years. She has spent every waking hour fighting for justice, winning cases for those crushed by the system. And now, finally, a well-earned break. But her peace is interrupted. A voice, sharp with irritation, comes from the aisle seat. "Excuse me, but—" The man next to her, a middle-aged white businessman in a navy suit, scowls at her. His name tag from a corporate conference reads, Thomas Caldwell, VP, Global Investments. Rachel glances up. "Yes?" Thomas shifts in his seat, his fingers drumming on the armrest. Look, I don't want to make a big deal, but I don't feel comfortable sitting here." Rachel frowns. "Is there a problem?" He exhales, shaking his head, as if trying to find the right words. Then, voice dropping, he mutters, "I don't feel safe." For a moment, Rachel doesn't process it. Then it hits. Her jaw tightens. Safe from what, exactly? His eyes flicker to the flight attendant approaching the row. His voice lifts, loud enough for others to hear. "I don't want to make a scene, but I'd like to request a seat change. I feel threatened." Rachel's breath catches in her throat. Threatened. Her fingers tighten around the armrest. The flight attendant hesitates, looking between them. "I haven't done anything," Rachel says, her voice controlled, but she can feel the heat rising. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the flight attendant says, shifting uncomfortably. "We just want to ensure all passengers feel comfortable." Rachel hears the weight in that word. We just want everyone to feel comfortable, not her. The surrounding passengers start to glance over, some with curiosity, others avoiding eye contact altogether. And then, just like that, the decision is made. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to come with me." Rachel's heart pounds. "Are you serious?" "It's just for everyone's safety." Everyone's safety. A deep, sickening rage coils in her stomach as she unbuckles her seatbelt. The businessman relaxes, leaning back as if he's just avoided some catastrophic danger. Rachel clenches her jaw as she stands. Her fight-or-flight instinct screams inside her. But she already knows. This isn't a battle she can win. Not here. Not now. She steps into the aisle. And just like that, she's being escorted off the plane. Rachel sits in the nearly empty airport terminal, her suitcase resting at her feet. The sterile, bright lights above offer no comfort. Her fingers grip her phone, though she isn't really looking at the screen. They shake, not from fear, but from something much deeper. A weight she can't escape. The weight of injustice. The knowledge that her experience, just moments ago, isn't an isolated incident, but part of a sickening pattern. She scrolls through her phone, the words blurring together as her eyes skim over countless news articles and stories. Black passengers removed from flights. Misunderstandings. Company policies. She reads them over and over again. The same tired explanations. The same empty words. Safety concerns. Security measures. It's always the same. Her hands tremble harder now. The reality of her situation presses down on her chest, suffocating. She's not just a passenger anymore. She's a statistic. Another name added to a list of people forced to relive this nightmare. But Rachel wasn't just removed from that plane. She was humiliated, disrespected, her dignity stripped away with no apology. She wants to scream, to tear down the walls of this airport, demand that someone, anyone, acknowledge what's happened. But screaming won't change anything. It's not enough. It never is. A new flight. She doesn't need anything else. Just a way to get home, to move on, to pretend this never happened. But deep inside, something stops her. Why should she have to pretend? Why should she forget what was done to her? Why should she just accept it? Her fingers hover above the screen, her breath shallow. She thinks about what could happen next. The pushback, the backlash, the trolls. A storm she can't control. But then she thinks about the silence that lets these injustices continue, the silence that allows this kind of behavior to thrive. She opens her Twitter app. Her heart pounds in her chest, a steady rhythm that matches the jittering of her hands. She types quickly, words flowing with a quiet, determined urgency. A tweet, a simple recounting of what happened. No exaggeration, no embellishment, just the truth, just her truth. She hesitates, just for a moment. But then, without thinking any longer, her finger presses the send button. The tweet is out there now, and somehow, it feels like a small, quiet victory. It takes less than an hour. Her phone vibrates once, then again, then constantly. A flood of messages, retweets, comments. The story spreads fast, like wildfire, consuming everything in its path. Flying. While black is trending, the hashtag, the stories, all of it, shared by people who have felt the sting of racial profiling firsthand. Celebrities amplify the message, giving it weight, spreading it wider. Legal analysts start weighing in, offering their professional opinions on what steps Rachel might take. Meanwhile, the airline releases a vague, generic statement about reviewing protocol, a hollow attempt at damage control. But then, the video surfaces. Someone, some stranger with a conscience, had filmed it. The moment Caldwell muttered those words, the moment the flight attendant made the call, the moment Rachel, jaw clenched and shoulders squared, was escorted off that plane like an outcast, like she wasn't even human. The camera captures everything, the dehumanizing look in her eyes, the defiant way she walks away, as though she's fighting to hold on to some shred of dignity in a world that's stripping it away. Now, there's no room for misunderstanding. The truth is undeniable. The world sees it. Rachel's phone rings. The number is unfamiliar. She answers, the weight of the moment still settling on her shoulders. This is Rachel. Ms. Thomas, this is Abigail Foster with CNN. We'd love to have you on to discuss your experience. Before she can respond, another call comes through. Rachel, this is Malcolm Jones from the NAACP. We'd like to talk legal action. And then another call. Her hands tremble, but not from helplessness this time. It's different. This time, it's the surge of something else entirely. Something fierce, something unstoppable. She's been thrust into a spotlight she never asked for, but now she realizes it might be the only way to make sure this doesn't fade away, to make sure that this isn't just another story to be buried under the weight of the next news cycle. Rachel exhales, feeling a spark of something she hasn't felt in hours. Empowerment. The world is listening now. They can't ignore her anymore. 1 week later, Rachel stands on a stage in front of hundreds. Cameras flash. Journalists take notes. A panel of civil rights activists, attorneys, and public figures sit beside her. She adjusts the mic, takes a breath, then speaks. "This isn't about me," she says, voice strong. This is about a system that allows this to keep happening. This is about the countless people who weren't recorded, who weren't believed, who were told to just let it go. Applause ripples through the crowd. She continues. We cannot let comfort come at the cost of justice. We cannot let safety be an excuse for discrimination. She looks out over the audience. I was humiliated, but I refuse to be silent. And if there is one thing I've learned this past week, it's this. She meets the camera dead on. We are done asking for our humanity to be recognized. The audience erupts. Somewhere in a corporate boardroom, an airline executive shifts uncomfortably in his chair, realizing that this is not going away. Somewhere in his office, Thomas Caldwell sees his name trending for all the wrong reasons. And somewhere, someone who has suffered the same injustice watches Rachel, standing tall, unbroken, and feels something stir inside them. A spark, a fight, a reminder that silence is no longer an option. Rachel walks off stage. She isn't just a victim of injustice anymore. She's a force to be reckoned with.